we'll be turning it over to Henry. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Henry Brozyna, and like Gisela said, I've been with CM for actually, it's going on 24 years. So I'd like to welcome everyone, and thank you for your time, and I appreciate you guys calling in and taking a listen and see what we have to offer here at Columbus McKinnon. In the next half hour, I'd like to go over some of the things about load securement, talk about how load securement is important not only for our individual companies, but for basically the general public as well. Obviously, a safe driver, a safe load is going to be safe for everyone all the way around. Well, what we do have, as Columbus McKinnon and as some of you may already know, Dixie Industries is a well-known name in the transportation or trucking business. And some people may or may not know that Dixie Industries is actually a subsidiary of Columbus McKinnon. We acquired them many, many, many years ago, but they essentially operate on their own. So obviously they've still got a very good quality products, and they maintain those products and build those products to the industry standards that are out there. What we do have to offer to you people, to people like yourselves, that I would like to bring up is we do offer a one-day load securement class. It covers all of the North American standard cargo securement standards. Covers obviously the United States as well as Canada. We do follow the CVSA Guidelines, and these are the CVSA Guidelines. We'll cover those as well as the federal guidelines. And some states, not all states in the U.S. anyway, they don't have, some of them don't have their own guidelines as far as transportation of goods are concerned as far as the highways go. So at the end of this, I would like to say that no matter what state you're in, you may or may not have additional guidelines. We don't go into the individual states. We do cover the federal guidelines as well as the Canadian guidelines as well. Tie-down requirements, we cover out-of-service criteria as far as tie-downs and binders go, which basically we bring in samples of tie-downs that are very good, obviously brand new, and then we also have others that have been taken out of service because of defects or they've just basically just been worn out. Same thing with the binders, is we'll bring in different kinds of binders and show you folks what they look like when they're supposed to be in one piece and obviously brand new, and then show what they look like when they start become abused. We'll also talk about the general requirements for some specific loads, such as steel coils, because that's a big one. There's been accidents in the past with steel coils, and steel coils are not very forgiving. They weigh thousands upon thousands of pounds, and they just there's no stopping them when they start moving. All right, we'll cover concrete, construction equipment, a lot of construction going on around the country, flatbed haulers, the lowboy trailers. They're carrying a lot of this equipment around. We go over what requirements that you have to abide by as far as the federal standard goes to make sure that that load stays on that vehicle. Cylindrical loads, paper rolls, drums, what else? There's pipes, things of that nature. Logs, very simple. Logs are logs. I mean, there's different criteria for every single one of these types of loads. We talk about also the load placement. Obviously, we don't want to have all the weight at one end, and we touch on that as well. Forged securement versus our castings. Why are forgings stronger than castings? Why do they have a better working load limit than castings do? We kind of get into that, get into some design factors. The driver's responsibilities. We really focus a lot on the driver's responsibility. As soon as that driver moves, that load is his. Bottom line. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we try and get in there and make sure that the driver understands that if he doesn't like the way that load looks, it's his option to refuse to have that load put on his truck. If you pick up a skid and the shrink wrap that's around it is falling apart. You've got product falling out on the floor. You've got boxes falling out. You don't want that on your truck because the end user, your end destination, whoever that is, they're going to refuse the load. So obviously we want to make sure that the driver recognizes these things. Simply stated, proper cargo securement, it's basically making sure that the cargo doesn't go anywhere. Doing what it takes to make sure my load stays on my trailer. We also, to do this, it helps understand forces. We have a lot of different forces out there that act on these trucks as they're driving down the highway. We have forward momentum. We make a turn. All of a sudden, the load shifts. The trailer can flip over, whether it's right or left. Going up hills, loads can start sliding back towards the back end of the trailer if it's not held down properly. Understanding these forces will help you to understand the reasoning behind the design factor of products that are built. It will also help you understand why some of these regulations are in place. In this particular case, this load shifted. You can see how the shift, basically the driver never had the load tied down. Basically came to a very quick stop, and the load ended up in the back of his cab, came through the trailer, came into the cab. These are things that we don't want to happen. Friction is basically, believe it or not, it is considered a securement device, but it has limitations. Coefficient of friction, depending on, like in this case, he's got looks like a big piece of granite or something that's in the trailer. I'm sure he probably looked at that and said, hey, this thing weighs 20,000 pounds. It's not going anywhere. I'm just driving it from one end. I'm just going a couple hundred feet, and it's fine. Well, that doesn't happen, all right? We don't advise people to put loads on trailers or on trucks and just strictly rely on coefficient of friction to keep it in place. It's not enough. All right, high loads on trucks, high centers of gravity, tips. We can have trucks tip over when the loads are up too high. People need to understand what these forces can do. We have to understand what the term center of gravity means. It's the CG. In the rigging business, riggers have to understand that. Drivers today, when they're putting loads on their vehicles, they have to understand. And, a lot of them, they're good mechanically. They understand that the higher the load goes, the more of a tipping hazard I'm going to have. Because he understands that concept, but he may not understand what it actually is. And we go into explaining what that actually means as far as the center of gravity and how it can affect the truck. Okay, now this truck, for example, obviously flipped over. It's not on its wheels. Changing lanes, making quick turns, somebody cuts them off. It's going to happen. Trucks will flip over, and they will flip over if the CGs are up too high, and they'll flip over rather easily if that's the case. All right, so how do we properly secure cargo? We can use the vehicle structure, such as a bulkhead. This will keep the cargo from moving forward. Securing devices, binders, straps, chain tie-downs, ratchet binders, all of these types of things, we go over them in our class, and we tell people what they actually and how they're built and what their designs are. Vehicle structure, blocking, bracing, drivers will have lumber on the truck that they can use to nail into the trailer bed itself to help secure loads. It's perfectly acceptable, but there are guidelines on what kind of lumber you can use, what kind of strength, or not strength, but what kind of lumber it is, the species of wood, if it has any defects in it. I don't know if a lot of people may not know, when they do this, there cannot be any knots in the wood. It cannot have any cracks. These are things that sometimes people take for granted. They don't even think about it. And there's many times I'll see trucks with loads that are being held in place by a skid or a 2x4 that they got out of the hardware store. They went to the shipping dock at the company that they're picking up the load and just ask the carpenter there or whoever's building the crates, hey, can you cut me a 2x4, 3 feet long? That's not acceptable. There are guidelines for that. The anchorages used must be strong enough to withstand these lateral forces. Again, those lateral forces, sideways, forward, backward, they need to be in good working order. Damage to any of these securement devices, and these are all usually added to the truck. You've got the pan fitting, which is what this is. You've got logistic track. This is usually held on the side of the trailers, on the inside trailers. They'll put the logistic track in there. You can even find sometimes there'll be trailers with this on their beds as well. And then we actually have anchor points. Those are usually held on like low-boy type trailers. They'll have like a D-ring in the anchor point. There are many types of securement devices. These are just a few. We also have different types of ratcheting devices as well as other securement devices. We have chain, we have web straps, we've got grab hooks, we've got binders, winches, blocking, bracing, I've covered those, shackles. Not too many truckers use shackles, but they do. They'll usually use them when they're holding down something like some construction vehicles. Only reason why they do that is because sometimes a lot of construction vehicles will come with eyes on the bed of the vehicle or within the frame somewhere so they can attach the shackle to it, and then they can attach either their binder to it or their chain or strap, whatever they happen to be using. Stake pockets are normally, I shouldn't say normally, but often used. Nothing wrong with that, but they can be used. Ratcheting, webbing ratchets. Kennedyne is a big company that manufactures ratcheting web slings, or web tie-downs, I'm sorry. These things are perfectly acceptable to use, and they need inspection. Not all of these come to you in perfect shape when they're on the truck. Weather takes its toll. Sunlight takes its toll on synthetics, the webbing straps. I'm not sure if a lot of people understand that UV degradation on webbing straps is very, very important to understand. There's an organization out there called WSTDA, which oversees web straps. They write standards for them, and they did a study several years ago on polyester as well as nylon straps, and found out that over time, and I'm not talking 6 months, I'm talking maybe about a year to, I think it was to 3 years if I'm not mistaken, that strapping lost anywhere from 30 to 60% of its braking strength. So, and that was just being exposed to the elements, period. There was no load put on these straps whatsoever. And that is available on their website if you guys want to go there and check out the details of that of those experiments. But there are basically two types of tie downs: direct tie down and indirect tie down. This is an example of an indirect tie down. We have an indirect tie down here. You can see how in this case the chains with the lever binder is attached directly to this piece of equipment. It's kind of like, I tell people, it's kind of like going up to someone and giving them a handshake. You're grabbing a hold of whatever that device is. Versus an indirect tie down, it's kind of like giving somebody a hug. If you give them a hug, you kind of grab them, wrap your arms around them. That's what an indirect tie down basically is. There are advantages to each of them. Direct tie down, they need to be tight. They can become weaker or even over-tightened. They increase or decrease in tension as the load travels down the road. And with a direct or an indirect tie down, you're relying on friction to hold that load in place. It can move around on you. It stays pretty tight throughout the use or throughout the trip of the load on the truck, but it can become a little loose because if the load starts to settle, like for example, logs coming out of the forest as they get cut, truck gets loaded up on the deck, truck travels through the woods, through a dirt road, gets to the highway. By the time it gets to the highway, I can almost guarantee you that some of that load has become loosened. And then it's just not that the driver didn't tighten it down the first time. No, I'm sure he did. It's just bouncing and moving throughout that short distance from the deck to the main highway. It will become loose. He has to stop and retighten all of his tie downs. Because I got news for you. I can almost guarantee you that every single one of them will be loose. All right, but that would be an example of an indirect tie down. On this slide here, we have, you can see from this chart how quickly you can lose tension as angles increase or decrease when you apply force to them and you have a load in them. Obviously, on the first one here with 90 degrees, if we've got our tie downs coming down over the top of our load and coming down straight down to the trailer, we're going to carry 100% of our working load limit on our binders or on our tie downs, which is great. We don't live in a perfect world. That doesn't happen all the time. We have different types of loads that are out there. As that strap or that tie down ends up moving further and further, the attachment point moves further away from the load, that will diminish the working load limit of that exact same strap if it was coming straight down. As you can see in this chart, we have 1,000 pounds at 90 degrees, basically going straight up and down. And then if you take that same tie down and bring it down to 15 degrees, you've cut the working load limit by 75%. It's now only good for 250 degrees. Tie downs of less than 15 degrees, it's tough to say that you can do that. How can we tie something down that is that low? That's where you start using blocking to help you come up with a different tie down. I've actually seen other people, what they'll do is put something on top of the load so that the tie down is coming up and over a higher span, so then that angle starts to increase, which means they get more force coming down on top of the load. Now, knowing what these angles affect and how they affect loads, our ability to secure the load, we can more effectively use our working load limit on our equipment to properly secure the load. It's very important to know what the working load limit is of the equipment that you do have on the truck, whether it be strap or chain tie down. We need to know this. That'll help us with the load. Determine the maximum amount you have to look at the strap or the chain. The strap has to have some kind of identifying mark on it, who made it, what the working load limit is. Chain will have some kind of markings on it as well, and it'll be graded, and that grading, you can go to the manufacturer's website, or you could contact me. I'll be happy to give you what that working load limit is of that particular piece of chain. All right, but there are documents out there, there are charts out there from different manufacturers that will help you decide or will help you distinguish what the grade is. A tie-down equipment is marked. All chain is marked. Grade 30, grade 43, grade 80, grade 100, whichever one you happen to be using, they are all marked. You should be able to read these markings. The only reason why you want to be able to read those markings is if you tie down a load and you know you had, say, grade 80 chain you were using, and it's good for 3,000 pounds, and through time, rust, weather, wear, we wore away all those marks, the G80s that were on there. Well, guess what? If you know that was G80 chain, you know it's good for 3,000 pounds. The problem is when you get pulled over by enforcement, they're going to look at it and say, I don't know it's grade 80. I'm going to take it down to grade 30 because I know that's the minimum it can be. Now you've got something you're not carrying enough load securement to satisfy the standards that are out there. So it's very important to make sure that you keep the equipment up to snuff. You don't want to start using equipment that's not properly marked. Not only that, but if the markings are already worn off, chances are you've had it for quite a while because those markings are pretty well ingrained in the material. If you've worn them off, you've had them for a while, or you've done a lot of work with them. Different types of cargo, securing different cargo. Obviously, we want things on our trucks that are very, very nicely wrapped. We want them stacked properly. Again, we don't live in a perfect world. The driver has to make that decision. Okay? We have a vehicle that was carrying pipe, and this would be under FMCSA, which is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act, Administration. Sorry. We can carry pipe several ways. We can carry it crossways like they did with these pipes, or they can carry them with the pipes, the openings up. They can carry them with the openings going the length of the trailer. But bottom line is you need to secure those pipes. Most drivers will make sure that the front one and the rear one are secured very, very well. And then we'll go in and we'll add also securement devices to the other ones as well. And we cover that. We also cover the securement for construction vehicles. Crawler cranes, dump trucks, excavators, bucket loaders, backhoes, things of that nature. We cover all of that. In the end, the truck and the load, the driver is the driver's responsibility once the truck leaves the dock. So I came up with this chart here. It's basically the driver's responsibilities. He has to do this. He's got to inspect his cargo and securing devices. A securement device is only a securement device because the securement device allows the driver to adjust it in route. All right, so if the load becomes loose, he can go in there, retighten it, or take it off, put something else on. That's essentially the definition of a securement device. Banding, steel banding that's put on, say, for example, pipe, shrink wrapping, pallets, loads onto pallets, those are not securement devices. We can't adjust those. We can't put more on it when we're halfway through our trip. All right, those are not securement devices. The driver during pre-trip, inform the carrier if the packaging is not adequate. If he doesn't feel that the packaging or the product that company just put on his vehicle is going to make it to the destination, then you know what? Take it off. Don't take it out that way. That is your decision. That you can think of the driver as the captain of the ship. He's the law when everything comes together on that truck. All right. Adjust the cargo. All right, as needed. Obviously for the pre-trip, he's going to take and place it on his vehicle. How he best figures the weight is going to be the best distributed. Within the first 50 miles, he can check it, adjust it as needed, or when the duty service of the driver changes. You pull into a truck stop or meet at a convenient location. This driver doesn't go any further. I'm going to turn the truck over to another driver or drop the trailer, give it to another driver, another truck. Then, the driver should go over that load to make sure that it's secured properly. Because, again, trailer's his now, load is his. It's his responsibility. All right. 3-hour intervals or every 150 miles, the driver needs to stop and take a break, walk around the trailer or the truck, and make sure that the securement devices haven't become loose. Roads are not smooth. How often we think, oh, this is a nice smooth road. Guess what? There are bumps in it. There are expansion joints. All of that takes its toll on the truck and also takes its toll on the load as well as the securement devices. Adding additional securement devices, again, up to the driver. He can do that. If he feels, well, you know what, I'm kind of close, throw another strap on there or another tie down. It's not going to hurt anything. All right? Be sure to review the Motor Carrier Safety Administration's Cargo Securement Rules, FMCSA. Those are the rules or the laws that are enforced nationwide. There are state standards that are out there, like I know New York State has one for steel coils. because we've had several accidents in the past that took some lives that were fatal. So we want to make sure that people carrying steel coils on our highways make sure that they're tied down securely, and that's not going to happen. And so far, I have not heard of anything like that happening since then. But there are other states that have other securement needs for different types of cargo. It may not be steel coils. It might be crushed cars. It might be lumber. Take your pick. It might be construction equipment. But the bottom line is whatever state you're doing business in or you happen to be traveling through, make sure you find out what their specific, if they have any specific criteria. As for our classes, we do have classes that are coming up in the near future. We've got one in March, May, July, and August. They're all being held at our Niagara Training Center here in Tonawanda, New York. We're a town, if you look at a map, you find Buffalo, New York, and Niagara Falls, New York. We're about halfway between the two of them. So because we're 15, 20 minutes away from Niagara Falls and 15, 20 minutes away from Buffalo. So we fall just about in the middle between them. So if anybody has any questions about what I just went over?
I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's go ahead and you can just chat for a second about the sixth wheel.
Okay.
And then we can open it up for questions.
Okay. Recently, CM has, or I should say Dixie Industry has had a sixth wheel ratcheting type handle for several years. We redesigned it, came out with a new one in about the last, I believe it was about 6 months, 7 months or so. And it's actually a pretty neat device. It's ergonomic. When you land a trailer, normally the individual that's cranking down on that handle has to make one complete circle for that material to, I should say, the landing gear to go up and down, up or down. And whereas with this ratchet, it's like operating a ratchet wrench. You don't have to make a complete circle. You can pick it up, push down on it halfway, pick it back up, push back down, pick it up, push back down. So you can use all of your body weight to raise and lower these landing gear. It works very well. We do have a video of it on YouTube. So if anyone's interested in seeing it actually in action, you're welcome to go to the YouTube site and see our video on that. As for upcoming trade shows, I will be at both SCNRA shows. So if anyone is interested in meeting me face-to-face and talking to me about any concerns or questions that may come up between now and when I'm at one of these shows, the Mid-America Trucking Show, we will have representation there. I'm not sure who's going to that yet. I've asked if I was attending that. I'm not sure about that one yet. But I do know SCNRA. I will be at both of those, the one in Orlando as well as the one in Scottsdale.
Okay, Henry. Excellent. Thank you so much. We just had a question come in. What is the cost of having a training class at a site in Maine?
A training class in Maine. Hang on a second. I probably should have got this out earlier, but I did not. All right. If we come to your facility, all right, we're looking at your cost of $3,995, and that's good for up to 12 people. If you have additional people, it's $395 per person. All right, now that all includes books and anything else. We give out the current CVSA Load Securement book comes with that, and that, like I said, that price, it's an all-inclusive price. There's no additional fees for transportation, hotels, nothing. That's your cost.
And that would be for 12 people?
Correct.
Okay. And if they wanted to attend just a regular load securement class that we would offer in Tonawanda,
you're looking at $395 per person.
Okay, and this is this one right here. Okay.
Yeah, and that one you could register. You could, if you want to come to a class that we are holding in New York, you can go online and register. If you want me or one of the other trainers, if you want a trainer to come to your facility, you'd have to call me up and we'd have to make those arrangements.
Henry, and let me just make sure we've got your contact information. If you wanted to send Henry an email and ask him more, this is how you can reach him. And Henry, right there. Okay, we've got another question that just came in. How does the Train the Trainer course, just let me read this through for a second. Okay. How do you do the Train the Trainer course to allow in-house training for companies? How is that handled, Henry?
What the Train the Trainer class will be is we will do the training for just as if you were doing load securement, period. It would include just load securement. The trainer would be the second day. What we would do is, and that would require some additional literature that we would hand out. What that covers is basically how do you do a presentation, how you would speak to people, how to handle a class, how to set a class up, what you would need basically to start your own training class. That's what the Train the Trainer portion would be.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Are there any more? If you have any more questions, please go ahead and type them in. We have just, we don't want to keep you guys too far over, but please go ahead and ask. Just type them in that little box in the upper right-hand corner. And while you're doing that, I would just like to mention, for those of you who are on social media or would like to connect with us, you can do so in many ways. We have a blog. You can find it on our website at cmworks.com. There's a little icon for the blog. And you can go there, and we have several articles on load securement. We have over 100 different articles written covering all types of material handling applications and stories and standards and things. We also have a Twitter account. You can find us at CMCO Live. We have a Facebook page. You can become a fan there at Columbus McKinnon Corporation. And as Henry alluded to, we also are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Google Plus if you'd like to connect there. Okay, Larry, I'm going to type your answer in a second. We got a new question. How do you tell the difference, Henry, between cast and forged binding devices?
Cast items are traditionally they're going to have a lower working load limit, size for size, simply because, I have an engineering background, so I might be kind of overstating this, but forging, you basically take a piece of stock, heat it up till it's cherry red, you put it into a press, and that press comes down with a die that's mounted to the top of it and a die that's mounted to the bottom, kind of like a cookie cutter, and that press with force will come down and will actually form that particular product. Where cast, you pour the metal into a mold. Now that mold can be sand. It could be a steel-type mold as well, depending on the temperature. But it can go into a mold, and that metal flows into the cavities and creates the product. With a forging, what's nice about a forging is you can place different types of materials within that steel. You can put alloy-type materials in there. You can't do that with a casting. And the reason why you can't, you could, but it doesn't do you any good, because with a casting, you can't heat treat it. If you heat treat it, it just makes it more brittle. If you can take a forging, you can take and heat treat that forging, and it will change the properties within that metal because of the alloys that you put in there, which would make the metal just that much stronger. It could make it more elastic. It could just make it stronger. And you can get a smaller product to do a big job where you can't do that with cast. Hope that answers it.
Michael, if that didn't answer your question, then please go ahead and you can type in another. All right, we have another question that just came in. Living in the overhead lifting world, what is the chain grade lower than 70 that may be allowed? I figure 70 maybe, hold on one second. You said I figure 70 may be the lowest, but you mentioned 43 and 30, which I thought was for locking gates.
30, 43, and 70 are all chain that can be used for material handling as long as you're not lifting the load off the ground. So you can use it for pulling, you can use it for securement. Grade 63 is an alloy type product. It's not readily available anymore like it was in the past. It actually came out in the mid-30s. Columbus McKinnon introduced it in the mid-30s, and it was primarily used for overhead lifting because it had alloy properties in it, which made it stronger. Grade 80 and grade 100 are also both alloy chains, which are used for overhead lifting. 63, 80, and 100 are the only chains that you can use for overhead lifts. I hope that answers you.
Okay. And just so you know, we're going to do a follow-up email to all of you, as I said, with a link to the presentation, and we will also capture the answers to the questions that we're asking in the session. So if anyone has any more, let me just do one more thing. I have a polling slide. If you look to the right of our screen, I will go ahead and open it now. We would like to know, should you attend a Load Securement class in the future, would you be most interested in a hands-on class as we currently have, or would you be more interested in an online version? Please go ahead and vote. You can look to the bottom right of your screen. You should see it pop up. We just want a little bit of feedback. That would be great. Thank you very much. And again, if you have any other questions you'd like to ask Henry before we wrap up, please feel free to type them in. Excellent. Thank you very much. It's great feedback for us. Excellent.
Now, one thing I neglected to mention until Gisela just brought it up with the hands-on. These classes that we offer are hands-on. Yes, there is a good portion of it that is lecture because there's a lot of material to go over, but we also have a trailer out here. It's a small trailer out here in the shop that we put different types of loads on, and we've got ratcheting strap binders that we put on it to simulate a load. We also have the chain with the ratchet binders that can go on that as well. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. We have, like I said, we have regular square boxes that we can put on this trailer as well as drums and anything else. I mean, sky's the limit, really. We do all of that stuff. So I try and structure the class so that it is as much hands-on as is possible. As far as doing this class on site for the companies that are out there that are load specific, you're hauling steel coils, you're hauling steel pipe, you're hauling concrete pipe, crushed cars, or construction equipment. The way I have the class structured is, if you come to my facility here, I cover all of it. If I go to your facility and all you do is just haul one or two or three different types of commodities, I can structure it so that it is your specific class. So rather than sit there and talk about steel coils, when you guys don't even haul steel coils, why waste the time in doing something on steel coils if you're never going to pick a coil up? So I can do that, and I have done that for other companies in the past.
Okay. Another question has just come in. Will tie-downs require tags similar to grade 80 and 100 for lifting anytime soon? You heard some rumors about this.
At this point in time, no. I am a member of WSTDA, and I sit on the T6 committee for their tie-downs, and that has come up in the past, and it actually came up as late as two meetings ago, last year. There was some question that, yes, you have to have tags on your tie-downs. No, you do not. That is not the case. The tie-downs do not have to have tags like overhead lifting chain does.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have two more questions. The next question is, when securing a 58,000-pound excavator to a lowboy trailer, is grade 80 chain adequate? We use the tie-downs built into the excavator and cross the chains, attaching them to the side loops. Is that enough?
Depending on how many chains you are using and what the working load limit is of the chain itself, yes, you can use grade 80. There is no doubt about that. We do have a load calculator. Gisela, do you have that on our website?
Let me see. Hold on one second. You know, I believe so.
Okay,
yes,
there is a load calculator on our website. If you go to the load calculator and basically put in your load, 50,000 pounds, it will ask you what kind of chain are you using, and then it will tell you how many minimum chains you need to be put on that particular item. Now, when it comes to construction equipment, you got to kind of be a little bit careful because you need a minimum of 4, but you also need another one if it's got an external movable device like a bucket loader or an excavating type arm. You need to have that arm fastened down as well. So in that case, you're going to have a minimum of 5.
Okay, and our Gary Kreipel just sent me the link where you can find the load calculator. Just one second. I will share it with everybody. Just 1 second.
Now, I just want to go back to the tags. Tags for tie-downs, as far as chain tie-downs go, they're not required. If they're putting them on, that's fine, but they're not required. Synthetic straps, yes, they need tags. So
okay.
That might be where some people might be getting confused.
All right, we're going to take one more question before we wrap up for today, because we promised you 45 minutes. And if you do have any further questions, as I said, you can feel free to email Henry directly. But the last question, actually, we have two more quick questions. You made mention that shackles are appropriate for tie-down use. Is that a universal, or is there state or provincial differences?
As far as I know, there are no differences other than the fact that you've got to pay attention to the working load limit. Other than that, shackles can be used. They're not used often, simply because, like I said, most of the equipment and stuff that gets hauled around, I should say, just equipment and other goods, especially like lumber. I mean, lumber, obviously, you're not going to use a shackle on that because you just don't have any way of attaching it. But moreover, it's probably on equipment where you have someplace where you could have a hole where you could actually use the shackle in. That is acceptable. When you do use a shackle, though, make sure you're using at least a screw pin, preferably bolt, nut, and cotter. And it's simply because once you put the pin in there and you put the nut on the end of it, you slide the cotter in there to keep the nut from sliding out. The only reason why we say that is because you do get a lot of vibration, a lot of movement on the back of that trailer. You don't want that thing to come out on you.
Okay.
So if you do use them, just take a little extra precautions, but they are able to be used.
First of all, thank you everyone for taking the poll. We appreciate your feedback there. If you haven't yet done, you still have, we just expired that, yes. So thank you for all your feedback there. We have one final question we'll take, and then we'll wrap up for today. The last question is, do tie-down chains come in a variety of sizes? I have down here, let's see, do you see, Henry, on the right? 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, etc. They don't.
No, but they do come in a variety of sizes, yes. And again, that's why the markings on these chains are so important to make sure that they're there and that they're legible, is you want to be able to decide or distinguish which size you got, because that size will determine what your working load limit is, as well as the grade.
Okay.
So, yeah, they come in a multitude of sizes.
All right. Now, before all of you go, if you would like to share a couple comments with us, you can go ahead and type them in the Q&A panel. We'll be the only ones that see them, but we'd like some feedback. So if you have a quick minute and just want to give us a comment or two about what you liked, what you'd like to see different, and just so you know, we're starting a series now. So every month we're going to be talking about a different subject regarding safety and material handling. And so we will also include those future dates and links should you be interested in attending those. But we just want to thank you again for all of your, just taking your morning and 45 minutes of your day to join us. And we appreciate you being here. And again, we would really appreciate your feedback. So thank you so much. And again, if you need any further questions, you can email Henry right there at Henry. And you see his email address on the screen. Thank you again. We'll leave the program open for a few more minutes. And as I said, really would appreciate any feedback you can give us. Thanks so much.